Welcome. My name is Sarah Blumenfeld. I'm the Development and Program Director with the Lafayette Library and Learning Center Foundation. The Library Foundation, in addition to providing programs like today, raises money needed for books, open hours, technical resources, and learning opportunities that inform, enlighten, and entertain. Today's guest author, Jeff Gottesfeld, writes books that do all of these. They inform, enlighten, and entertain readers of all ages. Jeff is an award-winning novelist, a journalist, and he's written for theater, television, and film. This is Jeff's third virtual story time with the Lafayette Library, and he joins us today to share his new illustrated book, The Christmas Mitzvah. I'd like to thank Bell & Bunas, our independent bookstore sponsor, and remind everyone that Christmas Mitzvah is available at the Lafayette Library and at the bookstore. We'll have a chance to ask questions of Jeff after he reads the story. So if you'd like to ask him a question, please use the Q&A feature of Zoom. And now I'd like to welcome Jeff Gottesfeld. Hi, Jeff.
Hello. It's great to be with you. It's nice. Good to be home in Los Angeles after a gigantic week with 21 steps in Washington, D.C.
I am very excited. After we have a chance to discover the Christmas Mitzvah, I'd like to ask you some questions about your experiences, because I'm thinking that some of the people joining us today may have been here when you read and shared 21 Steps with us.
Yeah, look, it was one of the most remarkable weeks of my life, bar none. But that's not the book I'm here to talk about today, and which is why I'm not wearing a shirt and tie. So this book, Christmas Mitzvah, I think this book kicked around in my head for 20 years before I wrote it. I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on a theater project at First Stage Milwaukee. It must have been in the late 1990s and it was around holiday time. And there was a story in the Journal Sentinel about this guy, Al Rosen, who was just as ordinary a Jewish guy as could be, except he had one amazing thing that he did, which is that for the last 30 some odd years, he had been volunteering to do Christian jobs on Christmas Eve so that they could have the holiday with their families. And I was like, bingo, that is a great book idea. I have to write it someday. Well, it took quite a long time.
Well, let's get started. Let me pull the book up. I'm going to turn off my camera.
Right.
And you can, everyone can see your book. Okay, and I will move it forward when you're ready.
Beautiful. Okay, so the Christmas Mitzvah. Illustrations are by young Michelle Agatha, who lives in the Bay Area and I think goes to school at the Art Institute. Okay. Christmas Mitzvah. Al Rosen was a Jewish man who loved Christmas. It wasn't his holiday. He had Hanukkah, the festival of lights. But what could be bad about peace on earth and goodwill to humanity? On a Hanukkah night that was also Christmas Eve, Al and his son Jonathan kindled their menorah and then walked through the neighborhood to admire the decorations. At Clarence's corner newsstand, the clerk shivered in the cold. "Merry Christmas, Clarence. Why aren't you with your family?" "The boss wants me here till midnight," Clarence groused. Al shook his head. His friend should not have to work on Christmas Eve. "Go home. Let us finish your shift. Call it a Christmas Mitzvah." "A mitzvah?" Jonathan explained. "A mitzvah. It's a good deed, but also a commandment. It's what God wants." Clarence nodded. "I get it. Anyone can do a mitzvah." And then he frowned. "Even if the good Lord wants it, you two can't run a newsstand." "I'll give him a hand," Al said with a grin. "Teach us." The Rosens ran the newsstand for several Christmas Eves. But when Jonathan went away to college and Clarence moved on, Al had nothing to do on Christmas Eve. He called a radio station. The DJ put him on the air. Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm Al Rosen. I'm Jewish. If you're Christian and have to work tonight, but would rather be with your family, I'll do your job for nothing. The switchboard lit up red and green. For 30 more years, Al did Christmas mitzvahs. He pumped gas, lugged bags, tended bar, spun records, and changed bedpans. Some jobs he did better than others. Al bagged groceries, took tolls, sorted mail, filed papers, and parked cars. Jonathan became a doctor and moved back to town. Together, they mucked stalls, collected eggs, exercised dogs, fed cats, and scrubbed cages. Al became a grandfather when Jonathan married Beth and Sarah was born, then Ari and Zach. In wind, sleet, and chill, the Rosens bundled up to change tires, direct traffic, sweep sidewalks, deliver parcels, and plow snow. The mitzvahs became local legend, bussing tables, peeling potatoes, pouring coffee, washing dishes, and mopping floors. Years piled up like drifts in a blizzard. Al grew gray and achy. Yet, come Christmas Eve, he'd find his parka and head into the night to guard gates, open doors, answer phones, do laundry, and shine shoes. Inspired by Al and Jonathan, Christian and Muslim friends did their jobs on the Jewish high holidays. The idea spread. People volunteers on each other's special days. Some jobs they did better than others. One Christmas Eve brought a bittersweet story on the local news. A Christmas mitzvah ends this evening. 36 years ago tonight, a Jewish man took on the work of a newsstand clerk and sent the fellow home for the holiday. Al Rosen kept up that tradition for more than 3 decades, learning dozens of jobs to let strangers have the night with their families. He says he's finally too old for his annual Christmas mitzvah. Al, if you're listening, thank you for a job well done and a life well lived. And happy Hanukkah. Jonathan's phone buzzed all day. There were whispered conversations. As dusk approached, Al decided there was too much snow to see the lights. Plus, he was so tired. We still need to light the menorah, said Sarah. As she was about to strike a match, the doorbell rang. Why don't you get it, Dad? Jonathan asked. Al shuffled to the door. No one was there, but the driveway and walkways were shoveled. A family of new snowmen grinned charcoal smiles, and a snowplow flashed yellow lights at the far end of a blue and white carpet. A banner hung from the plow. Out stepped Clarence, bundled against the cold, and a gas station attendant, bellhop, bartender, DJ and nurse's aide, grocery bagger, toll taker, mail sorter, file clerk and babysitter, stable hand, egg farmer, dog walker, shelter aide, and lab tech, tire changer, traffic cop, sidewalk sweeper, delivery man, and snowplow driver, busboy, short order cook, waitress, dishwasher and janitor, guard, doorman, receptionist, laundry attendant, and shoe shine guy, plus their families. All the folks easy to dismiss in a world that mistakes wealth for worth. Now old himself, Clarence led the group. We want to thank you, Al, for the gift of Christmas. The snowplow driver offered Al his keys. Come on, we got streets to clear and decorations to see. Al stared out at a life well lived and wished he had one more mitzvah in him. He did. Come in, everyone, he called. It's Hanukkah. Let's light the menorah. Clarence looked puzzled. But we're not Jewish. Al laughed. You said it yourself, Clarence. Anyone can do a mitzvah. Behind a picture window, on a street of brightly lit homes, a throng of God's children marveled at the shimmer of glowing candles. The end.
That's gorgeous. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And there's a real Al, there was a real Al Rosen. I mean, he died late 1990s, maybe early 2000s. I'm in touch with his son, who's also named Jeff, who still lives in Milwaukee. And, Jeff says like his father was just a good person. And at a time when like just being good is not that important. I mean, I bet if I went into schools and I like asked a group of kids, like I had a classroom, like, what would you like to be when you grow up? Like, what kind of thing? I'll hear famous, I'll hear rich, I'll hear a great athlete. I don't know that I would hear good. If I prompted, I'd hear good. But without the prompting, I don't know that that's first and foremost on people's minds these days. It's not first and foremost on my mind, nearly enough. So when I heard Al's story, and I wanted to tell something inspired by the story of this door-to-door pots and pails salesman who cared about the people in the world, in a world that mistakes wealth for worth. And that's this book.
So were you distracted by other projects? Is that what took 20 years to finally make this happen?
Yeah. And I wasn't quite sure how to tell it, Sarah. As usual, there were a lot of false starts and a lot of bad early drafts on this before I got to it. And we tried it at some big publishers and nobody would bite on it. I'm not quite sure why. I mean, maybe it's a little religious. This is a book which is like pro-Judaism, pro-Christianity, pro-God, pro-mitzvah. But Marissa Moss, God bless her. I've now done, this is my second book with her after No Steps Behind. Saw it, stepped up, and then like looked for the right illustrator for it because we wanted somebody funny. And Michelle Agatha, this girl is funny. I mean, if you look at some of the spot art in this book is just hilarious.
Actually, I'm going to take us back to some of the illustrations because I think she was such a great choice for this book. First of all, I love the diversity, the different shapes and sizes, and yeah, there's a lot of humor in the illustrations, which is one of the things that I think will keep children coming back to this book over and over again because there's so much to see. But it also really moves the story forward. And I think like there's just so much movement in this and so much happening. And I think the one that really stuck out for me was this one. It's just so, you can almost hear the noise in the restaurant. And she really brings the whole thing to life in a very playful, fun way. So I think,
Yeah, it's super excited.
yeah, the illustrations with your words. I was struck by the line, all the folks easy to dismiss in a world that mistakes wealth for worth. That's a beautiful line.
That was, thank you. Oftentimes with me, there's one line in a story that when I get it, then the rest of the story will fall into place because, I'll know what the book is about. Like in the tree in the courtyard, the line I think is, the tree recalled how few had tried to save the girl. Okay, simple line. There's one word of more than one syllable in it, but with that line, everything else fell in. This book, the idea that, people, no matter what they do, they're working on, they would have been willing to work on Christmas Eve because they considered it their responsibility. And their job was, their bosses were asking them to do it. It wasn't until someone like Al stepped up and said, I'll do your work, that they were able to go home.
Right.
So, let us not mistake, right, worth for wealth and vice versa.
For anyone who's joining us who maybe doesn't have the background, can you tell us a little bit about mitzvah and where that word comes from and what it means?
Yeah, so it's a Hebrew word, and it means both, as Jonathan explains, it's both a good deed, okay, but it's also something God asks us to do. And in the Hebrew Bible, in the Torah, there are like 6 mitzvot, and some of them are like, don't have anything to do with your conduct toward other people. Putting up a mezuzah outside your front door, that's a mitzvah. You're asked to do it. The Passover Seder, that's a mitzvah. You're asked to do it. But then there's like a whole slew of mitzvot that have to do with with other people, like don't oppress strangers. Don't stand by idly while your neighbor's blood is being shed. These are both good things to do, but there's also a religious component to it, which elevates it and sort of crosses that line between ordinary and holy. So Al, by working as a short order chef or the world's worst bartender, he's actually doing something holy.
A lot I hear around our community, it has to do with kindness. And this book to me also illustrates just the simple importance of showing kindness to one another, regardless of what your religious belief or background is. And that's another thing that resonated for me in the book, is just the act of kindness that takes place between individuals.
Yes, and it's sort of slick that with kindness goes sort of compassion and tolerance. But Al's relationship to Christmas is more than tolerance. Yeah. I mean, he loved that holiday. He really did. It was a joy for him to say Merry Christmas to his Christian neighbors. And he loved the holiday lights, and he loved the holiday season, and he loved what that holiday did for just the environment of his community.
And so, I'm sorry, did you ever meet Al or just after the fact?
No, I was in Milwaukee working on this theater thing. I read this newspaper story. I think I came back to wherever I was living at that time, probably Tennessee, Nashville. And then I heard that he had passed away. So I never had a chance to talk to him. But he was like a person who would go into prisons and read to prisoners, his son tells me, if I recall correctly. I mean, this was just a good human being.
And one of the things I have on here to share with everybody, you've been with us a couple times before, and I think that that's sort of a theme in your books. You're always telling stories, sort of life-affirming stories of unsung heroes that appeal to all of us. And you were a guest speaker here in May, and you were talking about 21 steps. And I don't want to stop talking about Christmas Mitzvah, but I wanted to bring in your other books, because the 21 steps I know has been kind of a big focus for you with Veterans Day last week. And would you mind sharing a little bit about what you did last week to honor
Sure.
Veterans Day?
Yeah, I spent the entire week in Washington behind this book, and it was really remarkable. Sort of working backwards, I did a presentation to a reunion of tomb guards, and this book is about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and the tomb guards who guard it every minute of every day. I've been doing it since July 2nd, 1937. I did a program at the National Archives, which was broadcast nationally. YouTube Live, they're estimating 30,000 sets of eyeballs were on it through schools and other groups. And I shared billing, for lack of a better word, with Sergeant First Class Chelsea Porterfield, who was Sergeant of the Guard. When I visited the tomb last summer, she was in charge down there. And Chelsea, gave a lot of amazing information to a gazillion kids' questions. We could have stayed there another 2 hours for the questions that were coming in. The day before that, I was actually able to participate in laying flowers at the tomb itself. The Arlington and Society of the Honor Guard opened the plaza in front of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier to the public. You had to stand online, but if you stood online, you could work your way up and you could go individually alone in front of the tomb and place your flowers down.
And that was a big deal. That hadn't happened in a while, right?
It hadn't happened in decades. So, for me, I had something better than going alone. I went with a writer friend of mine from the DC area named Michelle Green. Michelle's dad, Major Eddie Lee Young, was a Tuskegee airman who flew in World War II in Korea and was special ops in Vietnam. So I went there with Michelle and her 97-year-old mother to place flowers at the tomb. That was unforgettable. I spoke in some schools. I did a lot of media on Veterans Day. The book's gotten a fair amount of attention, thank God.
It was a beautiful story. All of your books are. I'm curious if you have something in the works, maybe something that isn't going to take 20 years to
yeah, I do. I'm actually working on some other military themed stuff right now. I'm doing a book about the honor flights, which is the organization that brings veterans who may be old and infirm and have never visited their war monuments from wherever they are. Missoula, Montana. They may organize an honor flight from Missoula. They will fly them. Each vet has a guardian. So now you've got all these vets, not that many from World War II anymore, but Korea, Vietnam. They've never visited their monuments because they're not wealthy. They can't go to Washington. So this is an amazing program, and I want to do a book about it.
Okay. Do you have any plans for Thanksgiving holiday or your own Christmas mitzvahs this year?
That's a great question. I'm going to try to read this book any place I can between now and then. Thanksgiving will be with the family, and now you have just inspired me. I am going to find my Christmas mitzvah to do. Thank you.
Well, Hanukkah starts on the 29th this year.
It's so early, right?
So as we say, it's very early this year. So you can kind of combine the two, maybe.
Yes, well, I'm hoping that this book can get turned into a night before Hanukkah and a night before Christmas read. Because it is not just tolerant of both faiths; it is really embracing, and it's no Hanukkah Christmas mashup either. They're two faiths, two holidays, but some common themes.
Well, and it incorporates Muslims as well, and
absolutely
doing the mitzvahs. So, I like with the diversity and inclusion conversations that are happening right now. This book to me is perfect for that, especially young children, to kind of help them see that there are no dividing lines between us.
This is about as diverse treatment of a subject as one can make it, both in text and Michelle Agatha's art. Just look at the cover.
Yeah.
It's not all skinny people on the cover, either. Like, we got people different races, religions, sexes, sizes, ages, she did great. I
Oh,
love her.
it's gorgeous. I think it was a really nice match, her illustrations with your beautiful
Thank you.
words. So
Thank you.
on that note, I'm going to say thank you, and I can't wait for you to have another book so that we can invite you back again, and hopefully in person next time. And thank you, Jeff Gottesfeld, for
Thank you.
being such a wonderful storyteller.
Thank you so much to the library and the Learning Center Foundation. Yes, next time, not in Jerusalem, next time in person. Okay.
Next time in person.
Okay.
That's
Good.
great.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Bye.